Yes, good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Welcome back to Football Heritage TV. It's all happening. Spurs have signed a centre-back. Lyon have been relegated. Buemo's got another offer on the table from Man United. Rooney Bargi is going to Barcelona. Atletico Madrid are out of the World Club Cup. Sava's probably in the mud for something. And I'm joined by James Flower and Chris at Spurs CC. Gentlemen, how are you on this fine Tuesday evening?
Oh, I'm very well, mate. How are you about you boys? You all good?
Can't complain. Chris didn't get the memo for growing a beard, did he? In time for the show. He clearly didn't get the memo. Can you grow a beard, Chris?
Yeah, I could. I've always hated facial hair. I can't stand it. So I could if I wanted to, but yeah. I mean, also, I need to keep these youthful good looks as well, you know. So
you are youthfully good looking.
Yeah, you do look about 15.
Even though I know your real age.
45, mate. I'm older than Sava, but you know.
I know, but I do look 21 still, don't I? I do really look. I think if it wasn't for these lines on my forehead, I reckon I could get away for being ID'd for alcohol. He says, chaps, it's all very interesting at the moment. I feel like I was just saying to Chris, I feel like we're in that lull between we've had a mad month after winning the Europa League. Parade, manager being sacked, new manager coming in, couple of loan deals over the line, and now it feels like we're all sort of in that will it, won't it state. We're all waiting for something big to happen, but secretly in the back of our minds kind of knowing, well, hang on, this is Spurs. Is something big going to happen? Where are you at with it, James? Is this the calm before the storm? Are we all losing our minds over nothing, or are you feeling chilled about it?
I don't know. Everything that I've sort of like read and watched and listened to all say that our transfer window is going to sort of start on the 1st because it's the new calendar year, isn't it? So that everything's pointing towards that direction.
Yeah,
you're hearing murmurs of Eze and bits and pieces. Obviously, we've got that other young lad in. I just think it's a matter of sort of waiting, but I don't think it helps when you've got your chairman coming out going, we're going to win the league and the Champions League, because everyone's like, right, we're now going to act instantly. Everyone's expecting it to sort of flip the switch and we've signed Messi. I think him coming out has kind of turned the fan base a bit impatient.
Yeah, it has. I mean, Chris, I don't want to go too deep into what Sir Daniel Levy of Spursville said last week, but do you think that's kind of changed the expectation? Have we all kind of forgotten that we are still Tottenham and everyone's now getting a little bit like, oh my God, we're going to have the greatest transfer window of all time?
I don't know if it's changed. I think what it's done for me is reset my expectation back to where it was maybe 6-7 years ago of naive hope that maybe this might be the transfer window where we do something a bit different. I don't think it probably will be. But this time last year, I had no faith in it because I've got 20 odd years worth of evidence and I had nothing new. Now I've got something new, which is the chairman coming out and saying we want to win the Premier League, we want to win the Champions League. So I don't think Daniel Levy's a stupid man, right? And neither is Vinay. They know that they're going to get judged against that. So I'm pretty confident that they know that signings like Takai, we can't sit here in 2 months' time when the window shuts with him as our main signing, right? There will be riots in the streets. So I'm willing just to hold off. I think what we do as a fan base, this was announced last night, this Takai thing, right? And loads of people lost their minds as though the window's just shut. We've got ages left. Just chill a little bit. Let's wait and see what happens. I know at the same time, that sounds like every other summer. I get that. I get the cynicism. I'm 98, 99% of the way there with the cynicism. It's just that comment has just given me the 1% of maybe.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's that little bit in you. It's like, when I was younger, I knew my mum couldn't afford the brand new PlayStation whenever it came out, but I still had that 1% chance that the next day it might be there. And then it never was. And I was always like, it's okay, mum, don't worry. I don't worry. I still had that 1%. That's what it's like with Spurs. But, James, I want to look at this signing from yesterday. So we're looking at Takai, or I think it's Takai. it did send everybody into a meltdown, didn't it? Like, not, I reckon maybe 5% of the fan base probably said, okay, well, let's take a step back. If this was Brighton, if this was Brentford, if this was Bournemouth, we'd all go, oh, I bet he's good. Oh, they've done it again. Brighton, £5 million, they've done it again. He's going to be brilliant. When we do it, it causes pandemonium. And Daniel Levy, he hates us. He's a liar. He's a scumbag. Have we gone a bit over the top after this announcement last night, James?
Yeah, completely. But just before I speak about him, with that Daniel Levy thing, if it's true that Levy's stepping away from the footballing side of things and he's leaving Vinay in charge, I think what he's doing there is quite smart, because he's like, well, I'm nothing to do with the football anymore. I want to win the league and the Champions League now. Off you go, Vinay. So I think it's kind of one of those, now I'm nothing to do with it. Show me that I was doing a bad job kind of thing. But going on to this guy, I actually saw all the meltdown before I saw us actually sign him, to be honest. I was working and I thought, okay, I'll have a look. First thing I did was I watched a couple of games. I think he played, did he play in he played in a cup competition, didn't he? Play in something like South America's like World Cup kind of thing or whatever it was. It was like
he
it
did.
was something. Yeah. I watched some highlights of that game and a couple of other games, and he looked pretty good. He actually looks fairly decent. My only sort of hesitation is how many times have we bought these players that are fairly young and they're just turning out to be crap. Ashley Phillips was meant to be the next Virgil van Dijk, and he's going to be sent out alone again. And I think people, sorry, Ian, Mr. Lubo, I think the people like him are the reason why everyone gets upset for signing youth, because Dorrington was meant to be the next Virgil van Dijk. Again, he's going to be sold or let go for free or sold for 500 quid. I think we need to let go of this hyping everybody up. Let it run its course and see what happens. 5 million euros or whatever it was ain't the end of the world, is it?
Well, I think that's it though, Chris. I mean, we talked last night. Me, you, and Perchy were having a chat, and we talked about the whole Brighton thing. When Brighton, they've got such a good track record now that when they sign a player for 5, 10 million, 15 million, we all go, I bet you he's good. I bet you he's good. And I understand, sorry, if Lubo's watching, I'm sorry for what I'm about to say. It's Archie Gray's about to be mentioned. But when we spend 35 million on Archie Gray, that's when I lose my mind. That's when I get annoyed. I can't be annoyed, Chris, at 5 million on a Japanese international centre-back, because what's the worst that happens? The worst that happens is you have to give him away on a free and you've lost 5 million, right? Which I don't care about because it's not my money. Or the best that happens is he's a brilliant player that you get a few good years out of and you sell for 60, 70, 80 million. There's no downside to this signing, is there?
I can't really think of any. I think what it does do, though, is it does draw into question the futures of Phillips and Dorrington and people like that, because it's just another blocker to the first team, right? So I don't know. None of us know. This is the truth, right? None of us know why we sign players or what's gone on. Yeah. That doesn't make for good YouTube content if we all just sit here and go, well, we don't know, so we can't have an opinion. So everyone just has their best guess at what's happened. My best guess at the moment, I mean, one thing, this isn't what I think's happened, but one thing that could be true for all we know, we say Brentford and Brighton have got these great recruitment models. It's possible that Brentford, this was their next greatest signing and they're all for it. And Frank's just come in and gone, actually, this is the guy we were going to sign. Let's go and get him first. It's possible.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I think what it does say to me, logically, is probably that the routes to the first team for Dorrington and Phillips are a long way off, I think.
Yeah, look, we'll get into that in a minute. We'll absolutely get into that because, listen, I think, James, you hit the nail on the head there. I think it's because we've had signings like this before where we've all gone, oh, my God, they're going to be amazing. And, we've had Valise and we've had Brian Hill and we've had, we'll talk about Phillips in a minute. All of these players that we have. But for me, I'm really comfortable with this as a signing from what I've seen of him, which I'm not, by the way, I'm not going to sit here and pretend. When I found that yesterday, the first thing I saw, I think, was Perchy sending us a video, Chris, and I was like, who's this guy? But then the more I do my homework, James, I don't know if you've seen it, but on TalkSport today, there was one of the chief reporters out of the J League. I can't think of his name now, Adrian something maybe, or I might be making that up, did a really good piece on how good this guy is, how he's developed, what he'll bring. He was saying that I thought he would leave Japan this summer, but I didn't think it would be immediately to the Premier League. This could be a great bit of business, couldn't it? In theory?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, when I watched back and actually looked at him, it looks like he can actually win a header. And the only other defender we've got in the squad that can win a header is Danzo. So that's another positive. If you're kind of backs to the wall, potentially give him a bit of game time, bring him on sort of thing. But even his stats, when I looked at his stats, he's pretty shit in all of them. He is quite high in the percentile. So when you kind of consider that, and you've got like a Japanese international cup, we know what the Korean fans were like. So you can only imagine that it's similar to the Japanese. So you'd probably make half of that back in shirt sales. So I don't get how it's quite possible. Yeah, well, I'm trying to be generous, yeah. But I don't get how
it's going to be 50% South Korean, 50% Japanese next season, isn't it? I don't know. And we're buying quite a few French, aren't we? We're buying quite a few French.
It'd be half Japanese, half Korean, and then Lubo sitting in the middle.
With his Archie Gray top on.
But the problem is, for so long, Daniel Levy has always taken the easy route. So I don't blame the fans for thinking, here we go again. It's one of those things. The guy that cried wolf, eventually it's not gonna work anymore. You know, he could be the next Virgil van Dijk, but everyone's seen this so many times. Phillips, but he's the next best thing since sliced bread. Continuously, it's like, okay, well, I give up now. Joe Roden, people were hyping up Joe Roden.
Who hypes them up though? It's our own fans that do that.
That's what's annoying, yeah.
How Takai revolutionizes Spurs back four. You know, these people who make these videos, I absolutely love them. Tell fixes Spurs front line. And then when he doesn't, but it was Ange. Solanke, the missing jigsaw piece, you know.
The cautionary tale about slagging this guy off, writing him off is there, right? If in 2021 we'd assigned Matoma from the same team for 2.5, 3 million, what would we as a fan at the moment, you've got the 50-50, I suppose. You've got the Levy outers going, it's a disgraceful signing. And then you've got the just always positive fans who go, this is the next greatest player, this is the next Messi or whatever. But we know that if we'd assigned Matoma, we'd have all been doing what Danny Rose would have done and Googling and going, who the hell is this guy? So the truth is we just don't know, right? He could absolutely stink the place out, in which case it's not a disaster, is it? We've lost 5 million.
I think one of the good things I've seen with the Club World Cup is I don't watch any of the sort of Brazilian leagues or anything like that, but it's been very good to see that they're not all donkeys out there. They could play football.
Nice.
Just because you don't know who they are, where they're from, or what, it don't necessarily mean that they're great. It don't mean they're good either. But I think this sort of like Club World Cup has opened my eyes even more, because you think, they're going to get smashed by someone like City, and then they kind of draw or whatever, and you're like, oh, okay. When it, like you said, Atletico Madrid went out, it's been a bit of an eye opener, to be honest. So just because we don't know them, it don't mean that they ain't any good.
Yeah, of course. But by the way, people are making the point in the chat. I completely agree with them that I'm not saying that just because this is a Brighton type signing that it'll turn out like the good ones Brighton have bought. But the point I'm making is, when these other clubs do these things, we do turn around and say, why didn't, like we did it with Kvaratskhelia, right? We did it with Kim Min-jae. These fairly unknown footballers that are now household names.
Did we do it with Eze at the start? And now we're looking at 70 million or whatever it is. So yeah, I think that I don't think what Levy's doing is wrong, because Chelsea did it a few years ago and now they're selling all their fringe backup players for 15, 20 million and making a lot of money. So I don't necessarily think that he's wrong. But I think sometimes sort of read the room. He knows what Eze's, so-called, we all know what they want for Eze. 20 million over a free period. installments, right? They want him over 3 installments. So for my opinion, why don't I just say, right, yep, we agree that, and say to Eze, like, we'll pay you on the 1st of July. Whack out that news. Everybody's on cloud 9, and then you can get the other youngsters in, but kind of drip feed a bit of positive before you kind of come out like, yeah, this is what we're going to do, and then you sign another kid. It's like a bit like, well, what do you expect people to do?
Yeah, look, it's interesting. I mean, look, I want to talk about our centre-back situation before we move on to the words that the Eberechi Eze is. It feels like this name is being used, certainly by me, more than any other name in the world right now. And if he doesn't come, I'm going to look like a massive knob, because it's just he's on the lips of everybody. Chris, but when we look at our centre-back areas, I mean, somebody said yesterday, we've got like 9 centre-backs, 8 centre-backs. And they're not wrong, but I want to break this down with you two guys, because when we actually do break those numbers down for the centre-back positions, we've got 4 to 5 first-team centre-backs, you would say. You've got the obvious 2, which is Van der Ven and Romero, and then their 2 understudies, which would be Radu Dragusin and Kevin Danso. I think we agree that they're the 4 main centre-backs at Tottenham Hotspur. You've got Ben Davies, who, did he sign a contract so that we could get some money for him, or are we literally just going to keep this guy here until he dies and gets his pension? Do you know what I mean? Like, we're not sure what's going on there. And then you've got Dorrington, Phillips, Vuskovic, and now Takai. But when you break that down, guys, you've got Van der Ven and Romero, who between them just about do a season. Like, between them, they miss so many games of football. You've got Radu Dragusin, who's out until, depending which report you read, October, November, or December. You've got Dorrington, who I've seen him play. I saw him play at Aberdeen. For me, I'll be honest, I just don't think he's good enough. Ashley Phillips, I don't think he's good enough. Vuskovic is about 12, isn't he? I think he's about 12 years of age. I don't know. But wouldn't you say that we needed another centre-half? Like, I know that sounds mad, but didn't we need another centre-half just in case we float to the back 3 rather than the back 2?
I mean, that's exactly what I was about to say. We don't even know what formation we're playing, right? So,
right.
You know, I mean, if you're going to play a back 3, realistically, you need, without breaking it down further into who's going to play left and who's going to play right, let's just lump them all in together for a second. You're going to need at least 5, realistically, centre-backs if you're going to play a back 3, even if you're going to do it occasionally, right? So, yeah, I mean, we can list all of those players, but I don't realistically think we're talking about Phillips and Dorrington being in around the first team squad. We don't know if Romero's going to be here or not. And who knows? We don't know what injury crisis we're going to have. If we have the same as what we had last season, then we'll definitely be dipping into that level. Takai, we could have a back 3 of what? Takai, Phillips, Davis. I'll look forward to that. And if they can just tell me in advance whether they're bothering to try or not this season, that will help.
Yeah, that would help decide whether you pay to travel to go and watch them. But
yeah.
James, Chris makes a good point. We don't know what formation we're going to play. But what we do know, James, is today, the day after the Takai news, you've got Alistair Gold coming out and saying that Dorrington and Phillips this season, certainly their futures will lay away from Tottenham Hotspur. And that's not a surprise, is it? Is that a surprise to you that those 2 won't be at Spurs next year?
No, I said this. That I don't think any of these so-called youngsters are good enough for Tottenham Hotspur. I don't think. I think they're all average. From what I've seen, they're all average. They need to go. I think I said they need to go to the Championship. For me, the Championship's the most physical league in the world, and you're going to get smashed regardless. So I think that our centre-backs need to go to the Championship and see if they sink or swim. I mean, I think Phillips had a good season. Was it at Plymouth or Preston? He had a good season there.
He was at Stoke last season. He was at Plymouth the year before.
Yeah, so he had a good season at Plymouth and then a bang average season at Stoke. So is that
really well? I've got mates who are Stoke fans. They said he was like their best player.
Oh, really? What I read the other day, they wasn't keen to take him back.
I mean, I only know for the people who watch him play, but
yeah, of course.
I'm not sure what it tells you though. look at the teams who are dominating the Championship the last few years and coming up and going straight back down again. So what is it really telling you about their ability to compete in the top half of the Premier League?
Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because, Ashley Phillips was exactly this 2 years ago, wasn't it? It was exactly Takai 2 years ago. We went to Blackburn. In hindsight, we're all sitting there going, hang on, how have we been watching Blackburn so many times and the player we didn't pick up was Wharton? But that's a different story. Ashley Phillips came in, and even through injury crises, he has not been given a minute. As far as I remember, I don't think he's had a minute in a Spurs shirt, has he? I don't think he's played a single time for the senior side. And it is a jump up, lads, isn't it? I see this all the time. People go, oh, so-and-so was brilliant down at Orient. So-and-so was brilliant at Cardiff City or whatever. And you're like, yeah, but that step up to the Premier League, especially for a centre-half, that's massive, isn't it? Like, there's a difference between marking, David Smith from Oxford, from bloody Exeter on a Sunday versus marking Mo Salah and Buemo on a Saturday for Tottenham. So, I feel like those two I think those two will end up going, Dorrington and Phillips. I feel like they're going to head out.
Ask you guys a general question. Like, I'm totally happy to be completely shot down and say I'm talking crap here, but a lot of our youth players, we loan out fine, and we seem to hold on to them, and they're getting on a little bit now in youth terms. So they're coming out of their teenage years, 20, 21, some of these, like Alfie Devine and Scarlett and people like that. I kind of feel like if you're not knocking on the first team door and getting on the bench and getting some sub appearances by the time you're about 19, the chances of you suddenly becoming a Premier... I know there are people who've done it, and people are going to say Harry Kane didn't score his first goal for us till he was 20. But generally speaking, I kind of think if you get into your 21st birthday and you're still not getting a chance, you're probably not going to make it. I'm prepared to be shot down and go.
No, James, go for it.
Yeah, I would say 21 is the age for me that you should be right. I'm here to play now. Like my 19s, 20s are done. I've learned what I needed to learn from wherever. I need to play now. Like Jamie Donnelly's gone out on loan. Next season for me, he goes to the Championship, and then he needs to come back and say, I'm either playing or I'm leaving. They need to sort of play games. And this is why I think it's quite mad that we've signed another centre-back in that respect of you're going to have to sell or loan out so many youngsters just to sort of clear space for them to come through.
Well, that's another thing with these youth players. There's no path realistically for most of these to, barring a huge injury crisis, to actually play really any football for us next season, as far as I can see.
Well, if you break it down, have a look. Chris, I know you said yesterday there were a few on here missing, and we can go through them. When you look at, let's go for anyone Adogi and below. Let's go Adogi, Sarr. They're pros for me. They're pros. So when you look at Tell and Odeberg, they've been bought. They're definitely going to be part of the squad. So is Takai. So is Bergvall. But you got Phillips, who's 19, Yang 19, Gray 19, Vuskovic 18, Moore 17. Donnelly's coming back. Luca Gunter's coming back. Dorrington is not on that list. You've got Phillips. Sorry, Phillips is on that list. You've got Valise, who's not on that list. So it's a lot of footballers, isn't it, to stockpile? It's a lot of footballers.
There's at least three more just off the top of my head: Lancashire, Scarlett, Devine.
Devine was the one that popped into my head, Chris, when you said about being 21. Here you go. I'll show you. To show you I'm not lying. The first thing that I did was go to Wikipedia and look at Alfie Devine. And you see there, if I remove those comments. So Alfie Devine, you see, he's been at Tottenham since 2020. Right. You can see that in 5 years of being a player at Tottenham, he's played 2 times, both in cup games. And then he's had loans at Port Vale. He's had loans at Plymouth, loans at Westerlo. And he's 21. He's 21 in August. So what's that? 2 months?
Yeah.
1 month, right?
And what's his GA in his whole career? What's his GA there for his whole career?
This will just show his goals. He's got 10 goals in 76 senior appearances.
It's not even that great either, is it? It's not like he's setting the world alight, even in the lower leagues and the foreign leagues he's been on. It's not even like he deserves it, does it? Like, I wouldn't look at that stat and go, bring him in.
I just think if you're getting to this age, needing to break through, the best you're going to be is a Harry Winks or a Skip, right? And I'm not knocking them; they're decent quality professionals, right? We can laugh at them and say they're rubbish, but in the grand scheme of, they're a lot better than your average nobody, right?
Yeah,
but
yeah,
of
course. Yeah.
What I mean is they're not really what we need to drive us forward. I kind of generally think, and again, happy to be shot down, the kids that are going to develop into players who are really going to make a difference are your Ethan Wanyeris or your Miles Lewis Skellys, and they're knocking on the first team door much earlier than 2021. I just can't see how these are going to transform. Yeah. At best, they're just going to be a squad player like Winks was. You know,
the only thing I can sort of play almost devil's advocate with that is we've now got a coach come in and not Ange Postecoglou, because I don't even know what he was. So we've now got a coach in. So for me, if none of them even get the opportunity this season, then they're washed. They need to just be sold off and then start again, because you can't keep stockpiling the next best thing, because there's no space for the next best thing. And a lot of people there, and a lot of people there will say, "Oh, Velasquez is too young," or I can't forget who else was on that list, but the 19-year-olds are too young. Bergvall didn't look too young to me last season.
Exactly my point. Like,
that's the point, right? He was 18 when he broke into the first team, and people are going, okay, look at him. If you're then going, okay, 18, 19, 20, 21, and it's still not happened, it's very rare that suddenly they're going to go, any football club's going to go, right, hang on, who's the missing? Do we want to sign someone? No, we'll take Divine. Where does a Divine get in? Where does a Scarlet? Let's look at them. Scarlet. He's not good enough. I don't care what anyone. He is not good enough. He is not a Premiership striker. I feel like that's got to be now where you move him on. Divine. I can't see where he gets in above what Kulusevski, Maddison, these people. You know, you've got Donnelly. I've watched Donnelly at Leyton Orient. People at Leyton Orient, he was their player of the season. He looked good for them. Again, massive difference between playing at Brisbane Road and playing at White Hart Lane. Pace of the game, physicality, all of these different things, speed of thought. So I can't see where he's going to play. Valise, he's not going to play. Phillips, Dorrington, Vuskovic, they can't all be in the squad. There's just, you can't all be there, because you've got your four main centre-halves that are all going to be in the squad when fit on a match day. How many centre-halves do you want on your bench? You know, so I think a lot of them are going to go. I truly think we've made a mess of a lot of these youth players, and I think a lot of them will leave.
Yeah, I agree. You, like I said, you can't keep stockpiling and holding. If they're not good, you need to let them go and start again. And that's generally it. Or you become a Brentford or a Brighton, and that's no disrespect, but a good season for them is top 8, average sort of top 10. If you're going to start blooding through these guys and giving Jamie Donnelly chances and Divine chances to start, you then can't be expecting to win those games either. It's going to take a long period of sort of going through the motions. So we either need to pick, we're going to go down a youth route and be a mid-table team, or we listen to Daniel Levy and he acts on what he actually said, and then none of these players fit into what he said. So the proof's in the pudding.
Yeah. But by the way, Soul Sniper Gaming, I don't like it when people say this, writing off players. The problem with this, and this is where people get silly, it's not writing off players. It's the law of averages. The law of averages tells you, if you look at every single teenager that Spurs fans talk about, if I listen to people like you, Soul Sniper, it will mean that Divine's going to be a first team regular, and Valise, and Donnelly, and Phillips, and Vuskovic, and Dorrington, and Ajayi, and the math isn't mathing, I think they say, right? It can't happen, guys, can it? You can't live your life amount of space.
You can't live your life by the exception, because if you did, none of us would ever cross the road, because people get mown down, hit by cars, right? You can't. Well, you know, it's just ridiculous. Of course, there are the odd players that come good later on in their careers. I mean, you could argue that Kane was, right. He had some unspectacular loans and kind of came in, I think, sort of 20, just turning 21, But what are we going to do forever? Just every crap teenager that we've got on the books go, yeah, but Kane didn't make it till he was 21. Look, it's just a silly argument, really. Yes, there will be exceptions, but you've got to take an approach that is sensible. If they're not good enough by 20, what are the chances of them really making it? I think they're very slim. I think you've got to be ruthless. Besides which, that the guy's just advocating for that. What do you want to do with all of these players?
How do they, Chris? How do they get game time? Chris, let me ask you boys this, right? So I'll just pluck five. I'm just pluck five. These aren't my favourite five. I'm just going to pluck five. Donnelly, Phillips, Vuskovic, Devine, and Scarlett. There you go, five. Let's just say somebody says, oh, these boys have got to get a go. Cool. Well, they're not playing on a Saturday in the Premier League, right? They're not. We've got much better players in every position than that, and we're going to buy better players, right? They're not playing midweek in the Champions League, right? That isn't the time where you go, you know what we'll do today? Devine, go on. You start against Inter Milan in attacking. Not going to happen. So then we're saying, right, the cups, the League Cup and the FA Cup. So what happens is it's a knock-on effect, and I learned this from working in youth football, is fans want to keep all these young players, thinking that, oh, well, if they train with players week in, week out, they're going to get better. But in essence, what happens is they might get 20, 30 minutes of football in a month. They might get a 30-minute sub appearance in a League Cup game or in a Premier League game. They're not actually developing when that happens, guys. They're not actually getting enough game time to develop as footballers. So what ends up happening is this time next year, us three could sit here and we're going through the exact same list as youngsters, except they're all 1 year older, going, who gets a go? We're all having the same conversation. The same people in the chat are going, oh, no, I think so-and-so should get a go. It's ruthless. You are either good enough or you're not, right? It is that cutthroat. This is the top level of football, James, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's spot on. The other thing I would add to that is, say, for example, this new centre-back that we signed, we sell him for 50 million. Just say 2 years' time, we sell him for 50 million. Because we've signed 10 players for 5 million or 10 million, taking that chance, even if one in 5 or 10, we're still going to make sort of £50 million loss, because you can't buy everybody expecting everybody to hit. If you're only going to have one hit out of 10 players, you're still losing money. So you can't just be rash with buying young kids, expecting them all to go for 50 million, because so far we haven't had any. I mean, Harry Kane, we use Harry Kane as an example there. He was one of the best strikers in world football. So that's an anomaly. You know, the last club players like that, Gerrard, Lampard, Scholes, they're very rare. They're not like you just buy them from Japan and in they come and they stay and they go off. Like, it's very, very rare. So I just don't understand it. You know, I think that at some point, if we want to win and we want to progress, you have to be cutthroat, unfortunately. Daniel Levy is the most cutthroat guy in business. But yet, when it comes to the team, he stores and just hoards players like they're no tomorrow. And then you've got a squad of 40 and we're still sniffing around for homegrown players. Like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, Chris, it's interesting, isn't it? I think the thing is as well is, and by the way, I'm not going to sit here and say I know the ins and outs of every one of these young players, Chris. Like, I feel that that's ridiculous. What makes me laugh is the number of Spurs fans who think they know how good all these young players are. Like, so many people right now in the chat going, oh, no, Devine's the one. Well, if Devine's the one, Chris, why has nobody in 5 years of him being at Tottenham said, yes, Devine is the one, give him a chance? If in 5 years of being at Tottenham, the best club he's been on loan at is Westerlo. Like, what is it that these fans know that's better than actually what the coaches have seen? Do you know what I mean?
I mean, I have to be honest about my ignorance here. And so I'm not one that watches the youth team. So if it's someone professing that Devine is brilliant because you've seen him in loads of youth games, then potentially you know more than I do. But what I do know is exactly what you just said. The facts I do have to go on is, what has his progression been in and around the first team the last few years, during which we've had a few managers, right? I mean, going back to Mourinho, he blooded a few youngsters, didn't he, in his time? And what's happened to all of them? None of them have seemed to have come any good. So Yeah, I go back to what I said. Really, if you're the type of player who's going to turn into a significant player in the top half of the Premier League, I think you're very likely to be pushing on the first team door at sort of 19, 20. And if you get into 2021 and you're not, the best you can get is a loan at Westerlo. Presumably, if there was a whole host of top championship clubs in for Devine last year, presumably you would go to there rather than Westerlo. So I can only assume that Westerlo was the best club that came in for him. Is that not so? I can only logically conclude from that says something. I'm not an expert, the same as you, Saver. I have seen him play a few times. He was the guy at Port Vale, Devine, or Plymouth, one of the others.
Yeah. Port Vale. Devine was at Port Vale because when I went to the Football Content Awards last year, we sat next to a couple of Port Vale creators who was going, "Oh, we love Devine. He's brilliant."
League Two.
Yeah.
So it's tough, really, to make any. We are speculating on players we haven't. Me and you personally haven't seen huge amounts of, but of course the coaches are seeing them all the time, the managers are seeing them all the time, and if they've not seen fit to introduce them a bit more over the last 2 or 3 years, then I think that says something in itself, right? Mikey Moore's the big hope, isn't he? Mikey Moore's the big hope, and we can see that he has. Whether we think he should have played more or not, as in MORE more often, we can see that he has been knocking in and around the first team. He trains with the first team. He gets on the bench. That makes me think, all right, people believe he might have a future. You're pushing out Alfie Devine at 20 to Westerlo. That tells me that you probably think he doesn't have a future.
Yeah, I think one of the key things I'm looking at is, Stanley's got... Anyway. Stanley, what is that? Yeah, I think the key thing is you're right. If at the age of 20, I want to see that your loan is to as high a position as possible. Like if you're loaning out somebody like Devine to Leeds who are winning the championship and he's playing week in, week out, and you go, okay. A bit like when Skip went out on loan to Norwich and won Player of the Year. Yeah. Ours aren't getting that. I mean, you've got Scarlett, who's been on loan everywhere, doesn't score goals wherever he goes, doesn't really hit the ground running. You've got Devine, who's done the same thing. Donnelly, who's been out on loan at Leyton Orient. He's 20 years of age, isn't he? Isn't he another one that's 20 years of age? I just don't know where we think all of these young players are going to play.
And almost like you're saying, I mean, I got ridiculed for saying I've seen nothing from even the likes of Mikey Moore, to be honest.
Very little. Yeah, I agree.
I've seen 20 minutes of football against the pub team. And the amount of love that this guy got, I mean, Maddison come out with a tongue-in-cheek comment saying, I thought it was Neymar. And all the fans have literally taken that on board and gone, he's actually Neymar. It's almost like when you tell your kids about Father Christmas. Like, Father Christmas was real. They go, yeah, it's real, yeah. It's, again, get a lot of hate for that. But realistically, have I seen anything from Mikey Moore to say you are going to be the top level? No, I haven't. So if we're going to be brutally honest, again, if you're going to act like a big team, then act like a big team. Sell them, keep them, and move on.
No, absolutely. I think that's a really good comment someone's made, is when you go and watch youth football, there are going to be plenty of young players that stand out playing against their own age group. There always is. Look, I mean, even, when I was at school, we had a kid who was one of my good friends at the time. We had a kid called Moses. And Moses played up front for us, and he actually played for West Ham. So he played up front for our school. We played up front for West Ham, played up front for West Ham with Jermaine Defoe in the youth team. When Moses played at our age group, it was just like, Jesus Christ, you're amazing. Do you know what I mean? Like no one, the player no one can get the ball off of. He gets 5 goals a game. Like he just looked amazing. Problem was when you went and watched him down at West Ham, around all the other kids, he was okay. He's a good player, but he's not that level. He didn't make it. I think the best he played was League Two or non-league in the end. Whereas Jermaine Defoe stood out and played for England and Spurs and West Ham and Premier League football clubs. I think we do that a lot. We've got a lot of people that go, oh, this youth player is amazing. He's brilliant. He's generational. We're doing it now with Williams Barnett. Now, from what I've seen, from the footage I've seen, I go, yeah, you can play. But it's okay doing that, weaving in and out of everyone. Get off that chocolate. Sorry, Stanley, trying to get my chocolate ice cream pot. And we all know dogs can't eat chocolate. Don't let your dogs eat chocolate, folks. It kills them. It's all well and good weaving in and out of 18, 16, 17-year-olds. But then when you're put into a first team game and you're weaving in and out past people like Onana and John McGinn of Aston Villa, it's, you know what I mean? You're now the next level up. And that's why I think everyone gets a little bit too carried away about how good young players are. And the best example, James, I can give is Vuskovic. Every time I see somebody put a compilation of Vuskovic together, they're showing me compilations of him scoring headers. They're showing compilations of him winning headers in the air. Great. Cool. First and foremost, he's a centre half. I'm not judging him on his goals. Second of all, right, he's 17, 18. Like, at what stage are we just going to go, right, let's see him next year at a proper club on loan?
Yeah.
Get so carried away, James. So carried away.
Absolutely, yeah. I would like you said, I would like all the centre-backs, if they are good enough, they've all got to go to the Championship for me. That is probably the best league for a centre-back to learn. And like you're saying, they're getting carried away. It's just madness. And they kind of provoke their own downfall, because when it don't happen, it's just like another one. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, this is another guy that was meant to be world class that's not. You're allowing the club to get them and buy them and get away with it because you're kind of feeding the hype.
I think with Vuskovic, where I'm just trying to work it out. I'm not an expert in the rules exactly, but he might be able to have a loan in England for next season and still be able to qualify in 3 years' time for our club grown quota. If I'm wrong,
isn't that like Papa Sarr? Isn't that what's happened with Papa Sarr?
Well, he won't be club trained, will he? Because he went on loan to France.
He turns homegrown, right? Because I think he joined us so young that he had 3 years between the age of 18 and 21, right?
I think it's next year he comes homegrown. I think it's next year.
Next year, okay.
Yeah, so but that still he'll never be club trained, will he, Matar? Whereas I think Vuskovic could qualify for that.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, Chris, when you look, it's like when people go, oh, you know, my mate supports Plymouth and said Ashley Phillips on loan was the best player there. Okay, that's cool. Let's say I spoke to my mate who supports Plymouth and there wasn't a Spurs 18-year-old there. And he went, oh, this 18-year-old, he's our best player, but he's a Plymouth lad. Would we all be saying the same thing? Got to sign that boy, he's 18 from Plymouth. Or are we all hyping it because it's one of our lonely kids that we're going, oh, he's their best player. He's amazing. Yeah, I feel like we're missing translation between amazing for Plymouth versus Premier League, better than Danso, better than Dragoshin, better than Romero, better than Van de Ven. That's what we're saying these centre-backs have to be to play.
Just forget the age for a second and just look at the levels of the teams. The same debate's being had in a way about Solomon, right? He's just ripped it up for Leeds, and that's at the top of the Championship. And I think I'm of the view, and I've probably just got feeling from most of the discussion around it, probably think I'm in a small majority that he's not good enough for Tottenham. He might well rip it up at the top of the Championship, but there is, as Sean Butler would say, these teams come up and go back down for a reason. So what does it really tell you? So if I'm trying to be consistent with my own argument, if I don't think Solomon is really good enough and he's doing it at the top of the Championship, it's very hard to then argue about Phillips or someone doing it in the Jupiler League.
I don't think Solomon will make it either. But the thing that's more encouraging about Solomon is he did have good spells at Fulham where you kind of found his form and you thought, there's a player in there. I watched Fulham quite a lot, and he looked, when he was on it, he was on it. He was like a very good player. But then he would just go 3 games missing, and then he would score again, and then he would go missing for 4 games, and then he would score. He went on that spell where I think he scored in 10 games in a row, or it wasn't that many, but something like that, 10 goals. and then he kind of just went missing again. So I don't think he'll make it either. But at least with someone like that, you've seen top end of the Championship, you've seen him do it in the Premiership. These guys, they're like League One, and they're having a good season, and we're kind of debating whether they should be given a chance or not. Like, what happened to earning your stripes?
Yeah. The other thing, just throw in there quickly as well, is what do our fans actually want? Because on the one hand, we lose our mind because we're not signing the Eze's and these huge first team players. So do you want them, or do you want all the youth to be given a chance? Because you can't really meaningfully do both at the same time, right? You got to kind of choose. But as fans, we always pick the argument that suits that particular moment in time. So when Moore's not getting a game, it's why aren't we playing the youth? And then when we don't sign a player, it's why aren't we signing the big player? It's like, it's just whatever.
Absolutely. I come on here the other day when Corey was on Sav, and I said, you need to make up your, I mean, big up to Corey, he's a lovely guy, but I said to him, you need to make up your mind, because you're saying you want Josh Keeley to start, Phillips to start, XYZ to start, and yet you're telling me that we need to stop being a little club and start acting like a big club. So I think even the people like that are kind of like, well, we've got to give them a chance because there's a player in there. But then when we'll finish mid-table, they go, well, why can't we just act like a big club? This is Daniel Levy's fault, and blame all the, like, it's like, well, no, you've asked us to do something. We've done what you've asked, and now you're still not happy. So it's like, whichever lane you want to get into, just get into it and stay into that lane. If you want us to produce the youth, fair play, let's produce the youth. But when we don't and we finish lower down the table, don't start going, well, Daniel Levy's the problem because of X, Y, Z.
That's the funny thing about it. I want to forget most of last season, apart from the very end, right? But going back to last season, and people would say all the time, it's clearly a youth project because of what we did last summer. But yet, if that's true, then actually play the youth, blood them, and accept that you might finish 17th and it might take you 2 or 3 years to work your way back up. But in reality, it wasn't that, was it? It was a youth project, allegedly, but then we never actually played them either. Yeah, so
agreed.
What was it? It was just a mess.
Yeah, I listen, I think it's interesting, right? Because when you look at the big clubs, how they do it, you know, big clubs, let's use City as the biggest example, right? They've been the most successful club in this country for the last decade, right? Man City, would you say, what, 6 or 7 leagues? I don't know, whatever. Man City selling players like Lavia, right? Man City are selling players like Cole Palmer. Yeah. Man City are selling all these young players that aren't good enough for them, that move on, and they manage to get good fees for them because they've loaned them out sensibly. But Spurs just seem to not get that right. I can't really remember a young player that's hardly played for us that we sold for big money. You know, Chelsea do it all the time. I mean, off the top of my head, if I look in the last decade or so for Chelsea, you look at Tammy Abraham, right? Look at Conor Gallagher. Look at Mason Mount. Look at Tariq Lamptey. Look at Guehi. Look at Tomori. Look at Broja. Look at, like, do you know what I mean?
How much was, like, Harry Winks sold for? How much was he sold for?
Harry Winks sold for like 20, wasn't he? In the
so
end.
That's probably, other than your sort of Galactico superstars in Gareth Bales, Berbatovs, you're probably around there, aren't you? 20 million for someone like Harry Winks.
Mm. Yeah, but you see my point is, how many of these down the years have we had? Madueke, yeah, Marcus Edwards, all of these players, Romain Mundle, all of these young players that over the years we've all heard the same we're hearing now about these young players. I've heard the same about all the other young players, as have you guys, right? This player, that player. I mean, we had who was the young striker we got from Chelsea let go this year?
Soonsop Bell.
Soonsop Bell. I was told, oh, this one, Sava, watch him. When you see this one, all right, cool. Santiago, he went last year as well, didn't he? Oh, yeah. Sava, when you see Santiago, all right, cool. Dennis Churkin, and we'll talk about him in a minute. When you see Dennis Churkin, right, we've done this for years and years and years, but what we're not very good at is we're not very good at the beginning bit of their development. The Chelseas, the Man Cities, these guys make money. They make like 25, 30 million pounds selling these kids who have never really played in the first team. We can't do that. So I feel like there's a real, Parrott. Troy Parrott is an absolute another one. You wait. This boy, look at the goals he's getting in the youth team. Oh, he's special.
And they were comparing him to Harry Kane. He plays the same style as Harry Kane. You're like, no, mate.
Yeah.
It's unfortunately, in my opinion, that's the reason that Daniel Levy will continue to buy. Because if there was uproar, people just said, no, they're crap. You're wasting money.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, all right, they're not costing the 50 million, but we could name 10 that have cost over 5 million that we've just wasted. So, again, it's sort of like looking after the pounds. It's just a waste. It's an absolute waste. If you haven't got a plan for them, then don't bother.
James, you just said the right thing. This is what I will never understand from our fan base what they want. I feel like a lot of football fans want to argue everything so that they come across, and forgive me for this, guys, so that they come across as a super fan. So they come across as a better fan than you or me, right? But it's, we want better players. Cool. Mikey Moore should be our left winger this season. Whoa, okay, hang on. Well, which one is it? Do you want Mikey Moore to be your left winger this season? Or do you want to go out and buy a proper player like Eze, for example, to play off the left-hand side? You know what I mean? We're stuck in this middle ground of wanting everything. We want all these youth to develop, whilst we want Daniel Levy to go and spend hundreds of millions on top players. Do we know what we want, guys? Like, genuinely, sweeping generalization as a fan base, do we know what we want?
No, I know what I want, but no, I don't think. I think people are just sort of. I said it to Brian. I think that people just want to always be right and to say, "Oh, I told you so," more than they actually want the club to actually succeed in anything. I think it's far more important to say, "Oh yeah, I told you so," rather than actually just back the team and support the team. It's when it doesn't work out, they go, "Yeah, but I'm back in the team." Just don't get it.
Just back the team is the most nonsensical argument I think I've ever heard. Just back the team, back every single player. But Chris, let me move this on before we move to a player like Eze. We're talking about getting some of these young players out because they're going to have to. Like, literally, they're going to have to. Our squad is going to be massive otherwise. But there's a lot of talk about one or two ex-players coming back because of the club. I know your face straight away, the little cheeky grin on you. There's lots of talk that we're going to have to bring back either Dennis Churkin from Sunderland or Carl Walker-Peters, who's going to be on a free this summer, because they are both club trained and that Tottenham have got issues with homegrown club train, especially rule. I know you've got some somewhat strong opinions on bringing back people like Churkin and Carl Walker-Peters.
It triggers me, this. I don't even know why it triggers me so much, but I'm so against it. Let me read out 4 names to you, and you tell me which team registered these in their Champions League A squad last season. Vitislav Yaros, Trey Ione, Amara Nallo, Thomas Hill.
Oh, I do.
Sorry, who are they?
They were in Liverpool's A squad, registered for the Champions League last season. We're not alone. We're not alone in this problem. The season before, by the way, City only registered 21 players. The difference, though, where I'll concede some ground, is they've got better youth players that can go into their B list than we do. But the point being, Liverpool have filled their A squad with players that were never going to play. City didn't even bother to register 25 players because they knew they were never going to play. Their view was, well, we've got players on the B list, so if we're that desperate, we'll just play them. And that is where I'm at. I'm like, why? Let's take Sirkin as an example. We let him go because he wasn't good enough. He had a buyback clause, which we didn't think he was good enough to activate that. We're now...
wasn't the buyback 6 million?
It was something very low. It was very low.
Yeah, I know it was a... Yeah, okay. Daniel, can I have a spare 6 million? Yeah, it's down the back of the sofa in the office type thing.
So we let him go. He's played in the Championship. He doesn't seem to be linked with anyone else. But we might go and we'd have to pay a transfer fee for him. I know he's got 1 year left. And as far as I can work out, we'd be buying him to fill a gap with the intention, hopefully, of never having to play him. And if we do get to the point where, your only option is Sirkin, which I don't think we'd ever get to that point, because I think we've got enough cover in the squad. But if you get to that point, in the Champions League, by the way, you're screwed anyway. If you're at the point where you're going to have to play Sirkin, you know you are buggered for that game. So why bother? Just put Ben Davis there, put Archie Gray there, play Van der Ven left back, Spence can play left back. There are so many options. I agree they're not perfect, ideal. Ideally, you want 2 quality players in each position. I understand that. But I am absolutely dead set against going to get any, and this includes Kyle Walker-Peters, who would be on a free, so I'd be slightly less irate about that. But what's the point in bringing a player to the club with the hope that you never have to play them? I'm totally against it. Just leave the space blank. Leave the space blank. Play a kid.
Can I just ask that, Chris? Am I right in saying this? And apologies if I'm wrong, but I remember the days where football rules were really simple and I think I knew them all. Now I'm at the stage where I'm like, I don't even know who qualifies for Europe these days. I don't get it. Am I right in saying that if you have, for Europe, if you have 4 home club trained players, then your squad is allowed to be 25 strong. So you'd have 21 players and 4 club trained. And for every one that you don't have a club trained, your squad has to go down a number. Is that right?
Well, yeah, but yes, but I think the way people explain that makes it sound like almost it's a penalty. But just think of it as you have 17 spaces for anyone, right? They can be Ghanaian, whatever. You've got 17 spaces for anyone. Then you've got 4 spaces that have to be association trained, homegrown. And then you've got 4 spaces that have to be club trained. You either fill them or you don't. If you can't fill them, you can't fill them. So, you're going to have a 24-man squad. But you've still got your B list to fall back on. The B lists as well are slightly different in Europe. There's qualification rules to your B list, which, as Perchi rightly corrected me the other day, there isn't in the Premier League. If they're under 21 in the Premier League, you can just play them. It doesn't matter if you signed them 5 minutes ago. As long as they're registered, you can play them. Not as simple as that in Europe. They have to have been at the club for a couple of years. So, for example, Bergvall, he wouldn't qualify in the B list. So you're going to have to register Bergvall as one of your 17 overseas players in the A list. So I mean, you're right. If you can't fill that 4 club trained spots, you can't replace him with anyone else. You just don't have that space is empty in your squad and you have 24. But like I said, City registered 21 2 years ago. It's not a disaster. You got all the B-list players. I think there's enough flexibility in the squad anyway to cover both fullbacks.
Yeah. So from my point of view is, again, that either lets us know that Jamie Donnelly and players like that are not very good because they're looking to get people in for free to fill that homegrown or youth trained players rather than use those guys. And if they're going to put them into the B squad, then
would they go
surely
in a club train though, James? Like is Jamie Donnelly classed as club trained now?
It wouldn't matter because if they are eligible for the B list, and I'm just furiously Googling Donnelly in the background, which he would be, I think. His loan confuses it slightly. But if you're eligible for the B list, you're going to go on the B list. You're not going to put them on an A list because it takes up a space that otherwise someone else like a Bissouma or a whoever.
Yeah, but my problem with that is you're going to be spending money that you don't need to spend to put somebody in the A list when you've got somebody waiting in the B list. It makes no sense. So for me,
yes, exactly.
That's what I'm trying to say. Unless they really think that those players on the B list are crap. Because why else would you be doing it? Because I would go, you know what? It's meant to rain on Thursday, but I'm going to buy a coat tomorrow, even though I'm going to sit indoors all day, just because, though I've already got a coat. Like, it doesn't make sense for me.
And the beauty of it will be that if we sign Kyle Walker-Peters or Sirkin and we get to the point where they have to play and they're shite, the fans are all going to lose their mind and go, well, they're crap. Well, we know they're crap because we let them go in the first place. I mean, obviously.
Yeah. So your point is, if you have to buy them just to fill an allocated spot, it doesn't really matter because if you're getting to the stage where they're actually playing, then you're buggered kind of anyway. Listen, I find it all very interesting. I don't think we'll get Churkin. I don't know about you, but I do see the Carl Walker-Peters one happening. I feel like this has got Tottenham Hotspur last couple of weeks of the window written all over it. He can play right back, left back. He's club trained. He's homegrown. He's free. I just feel like if ever there was a Spursy signing, that's the one.
I wouldn't lose my mind over Carl Walker-Peters, but the idea for Sirkin that I don't know what we'd have to pay. He's got a year left, 10 million. Fine. But that's 10 million that we could be putting towards another transfer of a player who we'd actually want to play, right? So Carl Walker-Peters, I still don't agree with it, but I can live with it. Spending any money on a transfer drives me.
Maybe we should have kept Ange because he only played with 2 defenders. We wouldn't have needed them.
Yeah.
But to be honest, this only it could be worse than this because actually we've got very, very few players who fill those 4 slots, like Brandon Austin. Okay, the only players we've got are the ones who you never want to play anyway. So Brandon Austin.
Hang on, isn't Brandon Austin the only club trained player we've got at the moment?
Yeah, I was told Scarlett and Devine, but I think they still might be eligible for the B list. Devine maybe not because he went abroad.
Scarlett must be now. Like, how old is Dane Scarlett? 20?
Yeah, he's.
Let's have a look at Dane Scarlett. So Dane Scarlett must.
21.
I mean, he's what? Sorry,
21. I think he still qualify. I'm not 100% sure whether it would be last season or this season he'd qualify as a youth player.
But again, if you're
been on too many loans, he's been on too many loans, so I don't think he would qualify for the B list. I don't think he qualifies club trained, is what I'm saying.
If you're getting to the stage anyway where you're going right in your Champions League, your 3 centre forwards, your third one is Dane Scarlett. I think you're at the stage where it's like,
this is my point,
you know what
right?
I mean? It's crazy.
It's exactly the same as last season having Alfie Whiteman, right? We've got to register Whiteman because he's the only club. Well, what value, what difference did it make between registering Whiteman and not registering Whiteman?
Yeah,
absolutely no difference whatsoever.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, Foxy said, for example, Liverpool had Kwanzaa, Elliott, and Bradley on list B, added with around another 20 kids on that list that never played at all. Yeah, of course. Look, I think barring massive injuries, these people are not going to see the light of down a football pitch anyway. And if that was the case, then you might as well have kept Ollie Skip. You know what I mean? Like you might as well have kept Skip.
I was just about to. I would be more happy to get someone like Skip back, even though it's going to cost money, than I would be to get someone like Walker-Peters or someone back. Because at least, God forbid, we had to play one of them, I'd feel a bit more at ease with someone like Skip playing than I would Sirky or Carl Walker-Peters.
Yeah.
I
agree. The only way I can make any concession from my view on Sirkin is if I could have a chat with Thomas Frank, and Thomas Frank said, actually, I believe that he could become a Premier League player. Okay, on that basis, fine. But if you're signing someone solely because there's a quota, you don't have to fill the quota. Let's just put it like that. You don't have to fill it. You've got a load of youth players. I'd rather give a chance to a youth player who we're saying we can never give any chances to anyway than play Dennis Sirkin.
It's lovely being a Spurs fan, isn't it? I mean, somebody's made a really good point in the chat and said, I mean, you look at Jarell Quansah of Liverpool. Liverpool have just got £36 million for him.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean, I'm gonna, off the top of your head, guys, how many games do you think Jarell Quansah's played for Liverpool? Off the top of your head, don't Google it. I'll Google it. Off the top of your head.
35.
I was going to say 25, but yeah.
Okay. He's played, if we look at the, he's played 58 games. Sorry. Bristol Rovers don't count. He's played 58 first team games and they've sold him for £36 million.
What, he paid 58 for Liverpool?
58 for Liverpool. So he's played 17 in the Premier League. So 30 Premier League games and then the rest are all cup games. But he's played 58 games for Liverpool, £36 million. So when do? We don't do that, do we? We don't have any youngsters that come in, play so little over 2 years, and we go, right, 36 million, boom, gone.
No.
You know, they've literally sold I mean, it's a great model. They've sold him for 36 million and bought Kirkes for 40 million. A first team left back. That's
why
right?
though? Again, you're digging out the fans, but it's the fans saying, give him another try, give him another season. Let's see what he could turn out to be. It's the fans. And then we realise, actually, they're not good enough. And then they go for nothing because they're worthless. They hit that peak. I think I actually think Ollie Skip is actually an okay player. Not for where we want to go, but I think he's an okay player. But I said when he was at Norwich, that season at Norwich where he won Player of the Season, he had a lot of clubs sniffing around. If you're a big club, you go, okay, you've done your bit. There you go, 30 million, whatever. Off you go. But our fans go, wait till Ollie Skip comes back. He's going to be our new number 6. And you're kind of, okay, well, there's the problem.
But we're doing it right now. We're doing it right now with Gray, aren't we? Like everyone's banking on, well, Gray's going to be our number 6. And again, I'm not having a pop at Gray, but other clubs like Liverpool, as I said, Kwanzaa out, Kirkes in the same 3 or 4 days, right? That has happened in the same 3 or 4 days. So Liverpool, I make it are £4 million down, right? No, £36 million up, £32 million up, right? Because Kwanzaa was through the youth team.
Yeah,
is that right? Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty.
Yeah. So Liverpool have made a £32 million swing on a first team left back who's going to play every week for them, and the young centre back who they've sold out. That's business. We've bought in people like Archie Gray at 35, 40 million. I don't think you get that back for him at all. Like,
no way.
That's what we need to be doing with certain young players. And if that young player is more, give him the game time. Let him, you know what I mean? But we just don't really do it.
It's tough, though. I've got some sympathy there for any manager, really, where give them the game time, but you're probably not going to do that in the Premier League or Champions League. So you put them out in the League Cup, we go out, and then the fans lose their mind that we're not taking the Cup seriously. So it's a difficult one.
No, for sure. I'm just saying we never seem to get that sort of scenario. Like, I know people will point to Harry Kane, but let's be fair, Harry Kane played about 500 games for the club, you know, and then we got the massive profit for him. But I just feel like clubs like Chelsea, they seem to do it well. Like, I don't know if you guys remember how many first team games. There you go. This is a good question. Between Guehi and Tomori, how many first team games do you think the two of them had for Chelsea?
I think Tomori had a few more, didn't he? But combined 20 at most, probably.
No, okay. I think Tomori played more than that. But
Tomori, right? Here you go. Tomori played 27 games of football for Chelsea, right? Mark Guehi played. Let's have a look. Mark Guehi for Chelsea played 2 games of football, right? So between them, they played 29 games. Now, let's see how much money was made on those two who made 29 appearances between them. So Guehi, Guehi joined Crystal Palace on a 5-year contract for a fee of 18 million. So they sold him for 18 million pounds after playing twice for the first team, right? Twice, not one Premier League game. Tomori, so that's 18 million. Tomori, they got, here we go. Tomori played, Chelsea youth career. Tomori was 25 million. So between the two of them, they've made 25, 18, they've made 43 million pounds for 2 players that have got 29 appearances between them, of which Guehi didn't play in the Premier League, right? And Tomori in the Premier League played 17 times. So 17 Premier League times between them, £43 million in profit.
How long ago were they sold?
So
Tomori.
So Tomori left in 2020. 2021. Sorry, went on loan in 2020. And Guehi went in 2021 as well.
So you can easily, with inflation, you could easily add 10, 15 million on each of those. So in today's climate, you're sort of talking a couple of 35 million pound players, really, or a 50 million pound and a 25 million pound. So we never do that. That's what I mean. We're not cutthroat enough. When Skip had that one good season at Norwich, they just said, "Yep, 30 million, off you go." But our fans get on board, and it's yeah.
There's a whole load of other. Chelsea have done it really well. I mean, there's much better examples actually. I was just looking back. I mean, you got people like Zuma. Obviously, Mason Mount was homegrown, and they sold him for absolutely millions. But the ones that I was just looking at, even more recently, right? The likes of Ian Matson that they sold to Villa, like 35, 40 million. Lewis Hall, even less money for like Amari Hutchison, who I actually think is quite a good player.
Yeah, I agree.
So many, and even at a lower level, players that you probably never heard of because they never even threatened the first team, like Diego Moreira, Kasari, Kasaidi. They've all gone for small amounts of money that all add up, right? All add up.
Yeah, agreed. Foxy agreed. Yeah, players like Ake. But the problem is, what I've noticed when I'm going through this is I'm looking at the loans that Tomori and Guehi had, just using those two as examples, who are both now England internationals, by the way. Like that's the strange thing, right? They're both England internationals. Both of them, the loan spells they had were Championship, and also Tomori had a loan for AC Milan. When Spurs tend to loan players out, most of our loan players end up playing in League One, League Two. We never seem to have them good enough that they're going to, let me just double check this right. So Guehi goes to Swansea City, right? And plays 45 games out on loan for Swansea, who were top challenging at that time in the Championship.
Yeah.
We never seem to have that, Chris. We seem to, like we had Phillips on loan at Plymouth who are fighting a relegation battle. You know, you got Devine who's on loan at Port Vale before he went to Westerlo. Scarlett was on loan at Oxford last season for the first half of the season, couldn't get a game.
Portsmouth.
This is the difference, right?
Skip is the only one that was a really meaningful loan in the sense, look, ultimately, I think we'd all agree is probably not. Is he good enough for the bench at Spurs? Maybe. He's not good enough for the first team. I think we'd agree at that. But if you send him out to a Championship team and he comes back as player of the season, he's earned the right then, right? And that's a meaningful loan where you think this guy, right, deserves a crack. But what does it mean to be, and I don't even know if he was, but what does it mean to be player of the season at Westerlo or even Leyton Orient? I'm sure we all saw some of the of Keeley and Donnelly last season. And yeah, sure, they look great, but what does it mean? Like coming back from Leyton Orient, does it really mean that, oh yeah, now they deserve a chance in the first team? I think the gap's just so big.
And even if they do well like that, like, would you play Solomon now this season? Is Solomon good enough? For me, probably not. Not probably, definitely not.
You can always flip it round and pretend he's not on loan, right? And if that was just a Leeds United player with whatever stats he got, do you want to go and sign him? And I know I was on another stream. I think Sava was on a stream where we were talking about a comparison to Somerville the season before. Somerville's stats were much, much better than Solomon's, right? So if we went and signed Manor Solomon now and he was a Leeds United player and we signed him, our fans would lose their minds.
Oh, of course I would. Of course I would. Listen, look, I agree. By the way, big up Phil Coys. How you doing, mate? So, Sava, let's be honest, the fans don't have any say on players being sold. So it's the fans' fault for players staying that should be sold as a weak argument. I mean, I think he's having a pop at you there, James. I didn't say that. I think you said that.
Yeah, I don't think it's a weak argument. I think it's not saying that the fans are the fault. It's saying that by saying let's give him a try, let's start Mikey Moore, let's start X, Y, Z. That's the reason why we're not buying real quality, because we're keeping the players around. If everyone was to say, no, you ain't good enough, we need to move him on, naturally, I think clubs sort of act on the way their fans act. So if our fans are going, yeah, these quality, they're going to go, well, we've already got Mikey Moore there, we've got Tell there, we've got, loads of kids there. It just kind of spirals out of control, in my opinion. I think that if you're going to act like a big club, act like a big club. Don't be saying I want the youth to play, and then when we finish 17th, go, well, we needed to play our first team, or we need winners. It's like, well, make your mind up, because you're picking youth, and then when we play the youth or we drop down a table, you're then saying, oh, we need to start acting like a big club. It's like, well, don't really make sense, mate. Pick a side.
The only thing with these loans, though, is we can't. I don't think we can blame the club for only sending Donnelly to Leyton Orient, because if, I don't know, let's say if Norwich City came in for Donnelly last season, they're not going to go, no, we'll send him to Leyton Orient. So I think you can logically and confidently conclude that the better teams haven't come in for these players to go on loan, which says something in itself, right? I think in the network of football, these players are going to be scouted a lot, even at that level, by a lot of other players, a lot of other clubs. They know who the good youth players are. So if they're not coming in to nick them on loan, be really interesting to see what Ryan Mason does. Like, is he going to take any of our players? Who knows? That would be a good loan, West Brom.
The proof is in the pudding, Chris. The proof of the pudding is in the eating, as my mum used to say. If any of these kids are that good, big clubs in the Championship will be coming in for them, and they'll go in and they'll play. So, for example, you know the young lad from Chelsea, Alfie Gilchrist, got his loan to Sheffield United, who lost the playoff final. So they were challenging for the title the whole year. He's gone in, and hang on, before I commit to this, let me just double check. I'm pretty sure he played most games. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, right? But that's the level you want, right? If we're letting a Jamie Donnelly go out on loan, I don't want him to go back out on loan to League One. I want him to go, he's played. So Alfred Gilchrist has gone on loan from Chelsea, just played 32 games for Sheffield United, right, this season. That's the sort of thing I want. If you're getting Jamie Donnelly out on loan, go there. You know what I mean? Yeah. Go to the Championship, go to Southampton, who have just been relegated. Go to Southampton, rip it up, score goals, get assists, get talked about, and then we can all sit there and go, yeah, you should come back in our team as well. But we seem to think, and the argument, this is the funniest thing for me, guys, the argument for any player who doesn't have a good loan spell is, yeah, but Kane didn't do a lot on loan. And it's like, hang on, Kane's an anomaly. Like, we've got to stop thinking that every young loan player is going to end up like Harry Kane. It's crazy, right?
Yeah, it's fine.
This is the I don't want to make it about Ange, but it was a similar sort of thing when people were saying about Ange, and they said, "Oh, but Keith Birkinshaw got us relegated." I'm like, "Oh, okay, so we never sack any manager ever again, even if we get relegated, because Keith Birkinshaw then turned us into European champion." You can't do that. It's just, all that does is it's abdicating your brain cells from working. It's just going, well, A and B happened, therefore we can never do this again. Like, that is just ridiculous.
I was speaking to a friend, and he said, all the players sort of like come out and defended Ange. I said, well, if I was going to work every day doing nothing, and my boss was saying to me how fantastic I was to his boss, I would also want my boss to stay, because he's there going, this guy's done nothing all day, but I tell you what, he deserves a pay rise. He's really good, because that's what Ange did. They did nothing week in, week out in the league, and yet he was going back saying, yeah, they're doing everything they can. They're really working hard. It's like, hold on, you've done nothing. If I turned up to work and did nothing, and then my boss was talking to his boss saying how fantastic I was, even though I've done nothing, of course I'm going to love that guy.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not going to get into Ange. I'll turn into like Lubo when someone mentions Levy. I can't. I saw the only thing I'll say on Ange is I saw a little bit of the piece that Spurs have put out about the European Cup, and honestly, look, shoot me down for this. I don't care. I have looking back at it, I love the memories of going to Bilbao. I don't look at that documentary with any affection for Ange at all. All I remember is how shit the football was, and I'm just glad he's gone. Nothing positive. Well, I'm sorry.
I'm not going to say anything about him, because I haven't said anything about him all show. I'm not going to do it again. What I find hilarious, by the way, first of all, I love this name. Second of all, what's funny about you is you've not posted a single comment in the whole show. You have waited for the first moment in an hour and 20 minutes that Ange's name is mentioned to comment. What's worse? Is it that we've mentioned Ange once, or is it that you've been sitting in the background, not joining in, and then it's like, oh my God, Angela. Guys, just quickly, yeah, no, I've seen a million people have sent me the documentary. I've got zero interest in winning it. I've seen a million people going, oh my God, look at this speech he gave to the players. Cool. Where was that speech before those 22 Premier League defeats?
Exactly.
Right.
The only thing I've seen about 20 minutes.
Look how inspirational he is in the dressing room. Cool. Well, what happened when we lost 22 Premier League games? Anyone can go in and give a rousing speech for a cup final. Me or either of you two lads going, guys, cup final. This is what we've been working towards. Right. Sorry, what about the week before and the week before and the week before and the week before and the week before when we lost all season? Anyway, not getting into Ange. Guys, Heber, Richie, Eze.
Oh, dear.
Are we all setting ourselves up for a massive fall here? Like every day now, it started with a few of the lesser journalists. So, sorry, not lesser, but the lesser respected journalists, should we say. Now we've got the Plettenbergs that are going, oh, yeah, Spurs he is an option, but they do have others. And we're all going, yeah, it's happening. Are we setting ourselves up for a fall for a player that's not coming to the club?
I think you've got to be very careful because it's one of those things of, even though they're reporting on it, they're not reporting on it, are they? They're going, well, they're looking at him. Well, I would think so, yeah, mate. He's been one of the best left wingers in the Premier League for the last 2 or 3 years. If we're not looking at him, then I'd be worried. But
I'm looking at Margot Robbie. I'm not going on a date with her. Do you know what I mean? It's
It's almost like, yeah, they're looking at him, but there's still other targets. It's like, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you're just saying that we know he's a good player. Yes, we do know that.
I just feel like this is what happened last summer. We heard at the start of last summer that it was going to be different and we were going to get, and it was Eze was the same name along with Neto and Conor Gallagher. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't know. But what I do know,
I'm hearing from certain people, Chris, that it's done. We're hearing from some people that this deal is happening. It's going through in the first couple of weeks of July. But the problem we've got, Chris, is we know that Spurs aren't going to make any big signings until July the 1st. We know that because of the financial year and where we need the money to fall into. But my worry, and I said this on my show earlier, is that everyone's going to think we get to July the 1st, wake up and we go, right, it's 3 60 million pound signings. And it's not going to happen, is it?
When does our pre-season start?
Well, the players, when the players come back or the first game?
Well, both really, either.
So I think some of the players come back, I believe, on the 4th, and others come back the week after, depending on tournaments and stuff. And then, if I'm not wrong, aren't we the back end of July for first games? Back end of July.
So realistically, I mean, if we was to sort of do what I would like in the next sort of week to 2 weeks to almost be finalised and finishing the transfer market to give Frank the best chance possible. So if it's an Eze and a Paulinia, that's who I would pick. I would like them done, ready to come back when the lads get back. So you're kind of ready to take off and start that next chapter rather than wait till we get out. Wasn't it last season we was on a Korean tour and we're trying to sign someone and fly him over or so? Was it Dragoshin was trying to fly over? And you know when you're like, I just don't want to do that.
Here's your Uber. Here's your Uber to Heathrow, and if you could just go and meet up with your teammates.
Yeah, I think it's got to be done before then, unless there's sort of something occurs while you're out there, like a player you can't resist for a certain amount. I think if our targets are Eze, a number 6, and a left back, go and sign them, get them on the plane, ready to go, and then it gives us the best possible chance going forward.
I just think I know this is the modern world and this is YouTube and you've got to have content. You can't just sit here and go, well, we'll have a chat about it at the end of the window. I understand that. But the world these days is so impatient. I've got no issue really with anyone who wants to conclude anything on our previous transfer windows. And there's 24 years of evidence as to what we mostly haven't done. But for this one, like this link, we haven't actually even signed him, right? This Takai guy, he's not been announced. It's just been been accepted. But let's assume it goes through.
Even Levy could get a £5 million fly over the line, can't he?
Well, probably want a discount off it, I would imagine, and pay the 5 million over the next 10 years. But anyway,
over the next 5 million days, £1 a day for the next 5 million days. Yeah,
throw in a few tours of the stadium and go-kart scraps. But anyway, the only what annoys me a little bit is I don't mind someone who comes out and gets frustrated and goes, "Why aren't we doing it?" Fine, I understand that. What I don't agree with is the ones that are coming out who definitively state this shows that we're not going to do this, or this shows that this is a Thomas Frank. This show. Hold on a minute, we're not even in July.
This is a club signing. Thomas Frank. The amount of blame I'm seeing, Thomas. The worst one I've got. We got to talk about this. Is it just shows Frank is another yes man? Sorry, have these people ever had an employer before? Like when I work for a boss, 9 times out of listen, I can push back to my boss to a degree, right? I can push back to a degree with not comfortable with this, or can we do this? Essentially, my boss is going to turn around and go, I've taken your concerns into account. This is what we're doing. These people think that a manager's going to come in. Let me play the scenario out, guys. They think that the manager's going to come in. I'm going to go, Chris C, sit down. Lovely to meet you. I'm Mr. Daniel Levy. Here's what I want from the football club. You're going to turn around and go, no. I don't agree to any of these things that you want me to do. Well, Chris, thanks for coming in. It's been a lovely chat. See you later. These fans think that this conversation goes like this. Hi, Chris. I want this, and this. No, Daniel Levy, I'm going to do this. You're going to give me that player. And Daniel Levy's going to turn around and go, Chris, I'm so sorry. You're 100% right. I'm going to buy you absolutely everyone you want. We're going to do everything your way. Welcome to Tottenham Hotspur. This whole, yes, man. These people are children that say it. It's ridiculous. It's so silly.
I think any of us, I don't know what we'll do for a living. I've got no idea what you do, Sava, because we're talking about it. We're earning your living right now. Hopefully, get more likes in, people. That's
yeah. This is my living. I don't have a boss. I'm the boss.
Any of us who've hired people to come and work for us, the idea that I would hire somebody who's just going to consistently argue with me and tell me I'm wrong. Why would I do that? He's like, absolutely not. Like, that's absolutely ridiculous. And the other thing I've heard said, which is completely correct, of course, is that which manager isn't a yes man? Like, I know we're going to put Conte up, right, as the guy who spoke out. Yeah, eventually, yeah. But there was still a whole load of transfers that came in that we all know Conte didn't want. Like, and what we're expecting then, that the first thing that happens that this manager doesn't like, he's just up in arms and going, well, I'm walking out. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, fine. But in fairness, he was a yes man until everyone started pointing a finger at Conte, and then he exploded and told everybody the truth. So he was a yes. And then when all the fans started turning on Conte, he then told everybody the truth. Arguably one of the biggest yes men. Spence come in, he said it to everybody, this ain't my signing, this club signing. Was it Rodon come in? So let's be honest, he was probably one of the biggest yes men, but because he, like we said,
transfers are just broken down to this really weird world where we think it's just absolutely binary and it's just down to the manager.
Exactly.
It doesn't work like that. Like, the manager will have some input and go, actually, I need this position. I quite like that player or this player. Other people will come into the conversation and go, well, we've scouted these players. You'll have a pool of players, and between you'll make a decision on, well, we can't get, sorry, Thomas Frank, but I know you want that guy. We can't afford his wages. We can't afford a transfer. We might be able to get this guy over here, though. What do you think about? I know he wasn't on your list originally. What do you think? He's the best one we can get. That's kind of how it works. It's not like Thomas Frank just going yes, no to everything. And half the players are not even going to originate from Thomas Frank. You're telling me that all the guys at Brentford, Thomas Frank had gone and come up with all of these names initially. It's just not how it works. It's just silliness. People break it down as though it's some simple process. It's not.
I do find funny, and I often go into this, but it does often baffle me the number of people who don't seem to understand how a football club operates. I'm not saying everybody should have intimate details of the workings of a pro football club, but a lot of it is very, very self-explanatory and common sense. There are very, very few managers in world football. And I saw Louis van Gaal talking about this the other week. Louis van Gaal, one of the greatest managers of the last 20, 30 years, right? Talking about, so there are very few managers that get every player they like, that go into the chairman's office and say, there's the 5 I want, make them happen. Let's be fair. Pep Guardiola, pound for pound, greatest manager in world football over the last 2 decades. Pound for pound. I'm not going to have the argument about who's better, but pound for pound, he's there, right? We agree?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So he wanted Florian Wirtz. They couldn't get Florian Wirtz. Okay, they've gone and got Cherky. Yeah. Is Pep a yes man? Do you know what I mean? Are you telling me that Pep said Calvin Phillips, of all the players that Pep Guardiola would know across Spain and wherever, you telling me he's looked at Calvin Phillips and gone, tell you what, City owners, this guy, get me this. Sometimes you've got to work with what you're given. Now, listen, I get it, right? Every now and then you're going to need that one. But listen, this is the guy that makes me tick. This is the, I get it. But all of these people that just say, yes, man, is a yes man, is a yes man. How many yes men, how many no men, should we say, keep their job? Who's keeping their job at this level if they just say no to everything? It's utterly mind-blowing how people think this works. Also, I hate to break it to people, but you do realize that when people say things like club signing, right? James got it. When people say things like club signing, you do realize that managers come and go, right? The average tenure of a Premier League manager is less than 18 months, right? So the club can't only look and say, every player is going to be, let's use an example we've got right now. Every single player that we sign is going to be a Thomas Frank footballer. Okay, cool. In a year's time, just devil's advocate, in a year's time, Man City come calling and go, right, Pep's left. Thomas Frank, we want you to take over. What do we do then? Go, oh my God, but we've got a whole squad of Thomas Frank footballers. Shit, yeah. What do? New manager comes in, right, all 25 out. We need 25 people who are all Xavi, who's the new manager, Xavi footballers. It just doesn't make sense. It's not how it works.
And that's why I think that what he did with Ange by backing him so much, I don't blame Levy for any of that, to be honest, because I think Ange asked for a lot of players and he got given a lot of players that he asked for, i.e. your Johnsons, your Solankis, those kind of players suit his style of football, if you like, your Timo Werners. So if that is the case, we'll be in the same position. Now we're expecting Thomas Frank to work with Solanke or Johnson's. We've been quite lucky that a couple of the other players were Van der Ven and Maddison, but that could have been a lot worse.
This is how clubs work now, though. Saba's absolutely right that 18 months... And we make it out at Tottenham like, oh, we'll just be here in 18 months again. Well, most clubs are. Most clubs, that's what happens. Also, that's the exact same logic as to why this, I don't want to restart the project again, is such an absolute nonsense, because there is no individual project. The days of a manager coming in, being an Alex Ferguson and going, these are I'll do everything. I'll scout them. I'll say, these are the players. I'll give the yes or no to getting them in. They're my players. It's not how 99% of clubs work anymore. You build a squad of players and your head coach, manager, whatever you want to call him, has to get the best out of them. They might have some level of influence on some of the players that come in during that time, but overall, the players are built to outlast the manager, right? Which is why you just need someone to come in who can work with them as best they can.
Hence why we have a scouting team. Otherwise, what's the point in having a scouting team if the manager says, I want this player, and everyone goes, yeah, okay.
Just quickly, by the way, this is where Alex is a smart ass. I like Alex, but he's a smart ass, right? Just so you know, James, Alex, just so you know, Ange Postecoglou is the one that turned down the opportunity to sign Eze for Tottenham last season. So when you're saying, yeah, he wanted Werner over Eze, he didn't want Eze, right? He wanted Gallagher. I hate to break it to you, Alex. It didn't matter who was manager of Tottenham. Conor Gallagher's not going to be sold from Chelsea. Chelsea are not going to sell the captain of Chelsea to Tottenham. And again, this is where we just say silly things. This is where people don't get it, right? So, Alex, you're going to have to trust me on this one. You're going to have to trust me on this one. I know for a fact Ange turned down the opportunity to get into conversations with Eze last season. Spurs have the same agency base as Eze, which is CAA base, right? He was offered to Spurs last year. Not offered like, oh, we don't want him, but like the opportunity's there if you want to strike a deal. And Ange said he didn't want him. Ange saying he wants Conor Gallagher, that's great. That's like Spurs right now saying we want Declan Rice. Brilliant, right? So this is the thing. When you come out and say these things, Alex, that you're not using a Bob. I mean, Russell Denny as a teenager going from Chelsea to Tottenham is not quite the same as selling the captain of Chelsea Football Club. This is what we got to say. Yeah, this is what we've got to say, right? Alex, let me tell you, your guy, Andrew, you back. He's the one. He said, tell me if I'm wrong here, Chris and James. He's the one that said, I didn't want experience. He said he didn't want the experience. He said, you can either buy it or develop it. I want to develop it. He said he didn't want leaders. So again, this is all crazy. There's James. I know you. I think you need to go, don't you, James? If I'm not wrong.
Yes, mate. Yeah.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, boys. Nice to meet you, Chris.
Okay, mate.
Take care, boys.
Big up, James. Thank you, mate. Chris, sorry, just to continue this. I just find it a bit crazy, right? That the number, as I said, the number of people that don't know the how it works. I'm lucky. Granted, Chris, I'm very lucky. I've worked for 2 Premier League football clubs. It's not what fans think it is. Honestly, first of all, Chris, it's not glamorous. When people think going every day and all the big cars are there, which they are, and oh my God, all the famous people walking around, it's not glamorous. But it doesn't work how these football fans think it works. The conversation.
I don't think even just looking at the anecdotal evidence, you're right in all the things Ange said. I don't think it necessarily makes it Archie Gray his player, because if you look at what happened with Archie Gray, he was on the verge of signing for Brentford, right? So that says to me that as a club, our transfer committee have sat down and gone, hold on a minute, there's an opportunity here to sign a player like Gray. You then go to the manager and say, we've got an opportunity to sign this player. Do you rate him? Do you think you can work with him? Is he somebody you'd like to bring in? Doesn't mean that he's a player that the manager necessarily wanted to die on a hill for initially. It was just an opportunity. And that's the way I think a lot of transfers work, right? They're, when people are saying on Twitter, we're monitoring the market for opportunities, this is the sort of thing agents do a lot of the talking, right? It's a lot. When you said about Eze last year, that would have been an agent more than likely sniffing around going, there's a possibility that Eze might leave, right? Or do you want to get involved or not? And that's how these things work. They're all...
Yeah. So
by
the way,
many managers now
it wasn't sign here, Ange, and Eze is a Spurs player, but it was offered to Spurs. There is an opportunity here to explore this. There is an opportunity to explore this. Ange did not want Eze. When you watch how Ange Postecoglou's teams play, it makes sense that he didn't want Eze, because Eze is a maverick. Eze is the player who does the unpredictable things. Ange wants people that run around and work hard for 90 minutes, right? But honestly, I love when I see people like Alex in the chat that they make me laugh so much when they say these things that are definite, and it's not how it works. I see things. Look in our WhatsApp group before I left it. The number of people that would just say things like, "Put the wages down. That player joined Spurs." You're like, no, that's not how it works. Yeah, it is. No, it's really not. Just call the club and pay 50 minutes. No, that's like, it's like nobody's bothered to go and do their homework to work out how do transfers work, how do agents work, how do chairmen work, right? How do chairmen work? How do they get involved in deals? How does a director of football? What does a transfer committee do? And you know the thing that annoys me about it, Chris? Look at all these TV programs that are out there, right? The Salford City program, you know, like the Class of 92, whatever it is, that's gone for however many seasons. The Wrexham one, the All or Nothings, all of those. There's the Newcastle documentary, the Leeds one, all of these documentaries where you see the scouting team sitting around, you see the committee sitting around discussing, right, what's going on? Well, we know that this lad here, we know he plays for I don't know why this came. We know he plays for St. Etienne. His agent's been on. 2 clubs in Italy want him. We've been offered the chance to buy him. He is on 10 grand more than our budget, though, and we would have to sell this player to make it happen. What do we think? Right? And you see them having the inner workings of, how does that all work? Okay, we bring him in. What does that mean for these 3 forwards? One of them will have to go, but we know that they want him. These fans seem to think that you just pick up the phone and go, can we have Eze, please? Thanks. It's a done deal. I just don't get it. I just don't get it.
It's interesting with Eze, though, as well, that
one of those.
For all we're linked with him, he's not linked with anybody else, Eze. Like, and there's danger there to me. If Newcastle suddenly crop up and decide they want him, or
sure.
Man United suddenly decide they want him, I don't want to be too harsh on this, because I'm fully aware that I'm not the most optimistic of fans at the best of times. But I kind of feel like if other clubs come in, Spurs have got to be the standout option, right? Because we're not going to compete against. I think it's showing we can't even compete with United, even though we've got Champions League football, because it's Man United, right?
Sure. But there's another case in point, Chris. There's another case in point. And by the way, guys in the chat, I'm not an ITK. I just know somebody that knows his agent very, very well. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. I know somebody that knows his agent very, very well. And I know that for a fact.
That's more of a solid link than 99% of ITKs on Twitter, to be fair. So they just make it up.
I know someone who is very good friends with his agent, and it was the possibility was there, and Ange didn't want it. But it makes sense. He is not an Ange-Postecoglou player. He is not an Ange-Postecoglou player in any way, shape, or form. But yes, Chris, going to your point there, which was forgotten.
Just about last thing you said. Spurs needs to be the standout option, right? Because we're not going to compete with others if they do come in for him.
For sure. But there's another case in point. And by the way, guys, we're going to wrap up at 11, if that's all right with you, Chris. So in 8 minutes' time, we'll go for 8 more minutes. There's another case in point. Look at the Mbeumo stuff. Spurs fans just going, I can't believe we're letting Mbeumo go to Man United. Sorry, letting. Like, I don't think they know how transfers work. Mbeumo would have been in conversation with Man United for a very long time before the end of the season. Right? For a very long time. His agent would have been speaking with Man United. They would have been aware. He's a Man United fan. All of these things. And we've got fans going, don't worry. Don't worry. We'll go and get him in front of Man United. It just doesn't. It doesn't work like that. And I suppose I get frustrated because I've worked in the industry, Chris. I get frustrated when I see people saying things that are just so far from what actually happens. It's unreal. Yeah, it's like me trying to tell you about betting. I know you work in the betting industry. Every time I say something about betting, you go, actually, Sam, that's not true. And I go, oh, I didn't know, right? When you've seen it firsthand, when you've seen these things, you realize it's very different to football fans talking and people in their professional day as a footballer and a football agent. It's very, very different.
My favourite one quickly on the betting last season was our Spurs are only favourites in the UK, and in Spain it's a different. That's utter nonsense. And you're only saying that. If you're saying that, you're already telling me that you don't know what you're talking about. But that's one of those favourite things about betting.
Yeah, but Phil, it does matter who the manager is when your manager is gung-ho batshit crazy. Right? It really does matter. Watch how Ange had his attacking players play. He stifled all of their creativity. We all said it. Look what he's done to Son, right? He's not doing the best for Brennan Johnson. Maddison, not allowed to be a playmaker. So now you chuck Eberici Eze in there as a maverick that wants to get on the ball and do his own thing. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work.
Remember, Ange's primary tactic is to get the ball wide, get it into the back post and have a tap in, right? Which worked well for Johnson. But is that getting the best out of Eze? I don't think that really...
No,
it's certainly not. I mean, it's interesting, really. I find it interesting that the main two links, and I'm saying links loosely, just idle gossip in Twitter, is kind of Eze and Mbeumo, because they play in different positions. So, as you pointed out before, there's not really been any massive solid links, actually, with Mbeumo in terms of established reporters saying we're in for him. So maybe we just want something different. I really do hope if we get Eze, personally, we don't strand him out on the left wing. Just let the guy. I'd start him centrally. Just go wherever you want to go. Free reign. Do what. That's the way to get the best out of him. I've heard people saying we really need to let's sell Son, get Eze in and play in that. I really hope we don't do that.
I see. What I wouldn't have a problem with is I'd have Eze and Maddison centrally, and I'd have much more focus rather than all these poor wingers we got. I'd have much more focus on Porro and Udogie actually offering the width as overlapping fullbacks. Let Maddison and imagine Maddison and Eze linking up in those central areas, right? Both technically very good footballers. Imagine that. Come here, mate. Come here. Come here. No, sorry. Stanley was going to eat my chocolate ice cream tub. Listen, I will leave it there unless there's anything else you want to discuss, Chris.
Just on the Porro stuff. This is where I'm hopeful with Frank. Like on Porro, you're just saying get them to overlap, right? I agree. You just think back again. I don't want to make it about Ange, but you look at a player like Porro, you think, right, you're not that solid defensively, but bloody hell, you can cross a ball. Yeah. So the best thing I can do with you is to get you to run in the middle of the field where James Maddison is. I'm like, I'm really hopeful going forward that we're just going to see players utilised in accordance with what their strengths are. If that happens, I think we've made massive strides already. Forgetting about league tables and where we are, just play the players according to what they can do and not what they can't do.
No, I completely agree with you. Look, for me, I think one of the biggest wastes we've had in the last 2 years is having that width and power of Porro and Udogie and making them invert for most of the game. I think it's been really, really poor. But listen,
when did that ever really work, by the way? What did they contribute when they came in? I never really saw much at all. Porro occasionally scored the odd screamer from 20 up. But aside from that, I just saw Udogie lose the ball all the time.
No.
Anyway, it's in the past. It's in the past. Let's forget it. But it's like a bad dream.
But what I do know about Frank is Frank's going to have different ways of playing. And that's what I like. He's going to have different ways of playing. But what people need to understand, this is going to take time to implement. This isn't going to happen overnight. You're not going to get at the beginning of the season and we're going to go, oh my God, we're free flowing in about 3 different tactical formations. It's going to take time.
I do think that initial uplift will be quite quick, but
I agree.
The next bit about actually getting towards 4th and higher, that might take time. But I don't think it'll be massively difficult to uplift us into the top half, for example.
I agree. Big up to Sanctuary of 7. Said, think I'll start a watch along where I watch other people's watch alongs and react to them. That would be a tough watch, my man. I mean, it's tough doing a watch along. Trust me, as somebody that does 3 to 4 hour watch alongs, they are draining. They take energy and time, mate. But big up to you, Sanctuary. Always very generous. The only super chat of the night. So I appreciate you, my man. We've had 1 super chat and 1 subscriber all night. But for 2 hours work, disappointing. But much love to you, Sanctuary of 7. Please smash the like button on your way out. We just hit 200. I'll be back tomorrow, maybe in the morning, but definitely with Lubo at 5 o'clock for Savra and Lubo Ask Us Anything. Chris, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate you.
No worries, man.
Guys in the chat, thank you very much. Most people were very sensible. Thank you very much. Really appreciate everyone. Take care. Have a lovely evening. And as always, come on. You Spurs. Actually, how rude of me. Let me transfer you all over to somewhere. Very rude. Other YouTubers do it to me. I always forget to do this, Chris. I always forget to do this. Let me see who's live. Let's see who's live. Where are we? Let me send you over to Sean. I'll send you over to Sean. When you get over to Sean, please smash Savarade. Just say Savarade. Take care, everyone. And as always, come on, you Spurs.